Welcome back to Katana TCG. In this week's early deck preview, we're wrapping up basically the entire Lost Origin set with Rotom VSTAR. When it's time to flex on your opponents in Top Cut this season, or even just upgrade your TCG accessories, make sure you're checking out inkgaming.com. They have a wide variety of custom playmats, custom dice bags, face masks, as well as mouse pads too, and a grip of sleeves and dice and deck boxes, all your TCG accessory needs. And you can use the code DADSPOD10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order from inkgaming.com. Your game, your style. Alright, so taking a look at my Rotom VSTAR list, there is no better feeling than having a relatively viable and easy to use lightning attacker in this current standard format, given that Palkia is so good. But this deck is as streamlined as I could have made it. It incorporates a lot of the Lost Zone functions, and it will tend to sneak up on a lot of decks if not played around it very carefully. So we'll go ahead and dive into what it does, and we'll check it out. Lost Origin technically has two Rotom Vs at our disposal, but I think that this is going to be the one that actually releases in our North American set. It has an ability called Instant Generator. Once during your turn, you may draw 3 cards. If you use this ability, your turn ends. Very reminiscent of Intrepid Sword with no energy acceleration whatsoever, but it does have an attack for 2 lightning, short circuit. It does 40 plus damage. Put any number of Pokemon tool cards from your discard pile into the Lost Zone. This attack does 40 more damage for each card put into the Lost Zone this way, and it has a 1 retreat cost, so it is relatively nimble. So we'll go ahead and look at the V-Star. It has a very similar attack, except it does 80 plus in the form of Scrappy Pulse for 2 lightning. Again, you put any number of Pokemon tools from your discard pile into your Lost Zone, and this attack does 40 more damage for each card you put into the Lost Zone this way. Any form of additive whatsoever has the ability to take big one-hit knockouts on things like Flying Pikachu, as well as Palkia. V-Star, and its V-Star power is an ability star conversion. You discard as many cards as you like from your hand into the discard pile, not the Lost Zone, and then you draw that many cards. So this is a really good way to get rid of the tool cards that you might have in your hand if you don't have enough Pokemon on the field to kind of attach them to, because using the tools as well as sending them into the Lost Zone is just as useful in this deck. But again, a very nimble Pokemon with a single retreat cost. 250 is a little bit on the lower side, and we don't play anything in this deck to kind of bump that up, because a big charm only takes it to 280, and that is the range everyone's kind of shooting for in this format. Rotom does have a really good partner in Porygon and Porygon 2. Porygon 2 with 90 HP for 1 colorless. It does Junk Data Blast for 20 times damage. This attack does 20 damage for each Pokemon tool card in both players' Lost Zone. So in the mirror, this Porygon is going to be really, really good. If you play anywhere upwards of 16 tool cards, you're actually able to hit huge numbers in the form of 320 damage, and they just have to stay in the Lost Zone. There's no movement whatsoever. You really can't bottom out on an attack like this. So Porygon is a great partner for this mechanic. I've also elected to play a 1 of Cramorant with its Lost Supply ability, since we're putting so many things into the Lost Zone in the form of tool cards. If you have 4 cards or more in your Lost Zone, this attacks for free, and you can do Conniving Spit for 110 damage. Pretty good card, very useful, and it's a great single prize trade-off, if you will. And I think it just kind of has a place in this deck. We're also running a 1 of Diancie with its ability Princess Curtain, preventing your opponent from using supporter-based gusting effects, if you will. It just prevents boss's orders at the end of the day. Really good for early game setup, especially if you're going first. This is going to be very helpful to protect your Rotoms, as they do have very low HP base. We're going to be running 4 Quick Ball. We're running 3 Ultra Ball. This is all the Pokemon search that we really need, given that Rotom has a significant amount of draw, and we're also playing a high count of things like Professor's Research to be able to draw through our deck and really actually get all of those tool cards into the Lost Zone. We're playing 3 Boss's Orders to gust our opponent's bench Pokemon into the active. We're playing a 1 of Raihan because we do play the basic energy in this deck to be able to utilize this card, so I don't see why it wouldn't be a worthwhile inclusion in a deck like this. We are also playing 4 Pokegear to be able to draw into those supporters, as we don't have an active draw supporting Pokemon on the field. Playing 4 trekking shoes to help us just draw out and potentially get those tool cards into the discard pile and drawing an extra card if we needed to. We're playing 1 ordinary rod, really to just recycle the Porygons. The Porygons are very, very important in a deck like this because they are a consistent attacker and don't rely on you having to transfer the tool cards from the discard pile to the lost zone. They just kind of have to stay in the lost zone and you deal a bottomless damage output. We are also playing a 1 of Lost Sweeper. You can only play this card if you put another card from your hand into the lost zone. This could be a tool card, this could really be anything, but you can choose to either discard a Pokemon tool card or stadium card, both yours or your opponent's, and put it into the lost zone. It plays heavily into our mechanics favor, as well as disrupts our opponent just ever so slightly. We are also playing a 1 of Toolbox card. This is a new card coming out in Lost Origin as well. You'd look at the top 7 cards of your deck and reveal any number of Pokemon tool cards you find there and put them in your hand and shuffle the other cards back into your deck. We play a lot of tools, so there's a good chance that this card can hit at least one time really hard. We are playing 4 Exp Share. We play a limited amount of energy, so it's necessary to be able to transfer those energies onto one of our bench Pokemon in the form of Rotom or Porygon, or however you see fit, but we're running 4 because we can take a couple of them, put them in the discard pile, and then put them into the lost zone with the Rotom VSTAR. And we're also playing 4 Air Balloon because pivot is good, and again we're running a high count of this tool because it plays into the mechanic. And we're playing 4 Choice Belt to bump up our damage if we needed to. If you have 15 cards in your lost zone and you attach this to Porygon, they still hit 330 damage, and that's still really good. So we're getting a consistent output out of Porygon by using things like Choice Belt. We're playing 2 Pokestop. Most of this deck consists of items, so Pokestop just kind of makes sense. In a deck like this, we're able to discard the top 3 cards of our deck and then put any item cards we see there into our hand. In an item heavy deck, this just makes sense. I like the inclusion of a 1 of Lost City, being able to get things into the lost zone at any given moment, especially against things like Durant and Reggies and so on and so forth. It's going to be necessary to just kind of keep those consistent attackers off the field, and Lost City appears to be one of the good cards to help us do something like that, as those decks are probably going to be the most problematic for something like Rotom. We're playing 4 Speed Lightning Energy to be able to draw out our deck, and we're playing 4 Basic Lightning Energy. Overall, I think this deck could potentially transcend into like a tier 2.5, given that it swings for lightning weakness, and things like Flying Pikachu and Palkia are definitely going to have to take notice of a deck like this because it just appears to be very consistent. However, I could see a deck like this definitely flopping due to its low HP base, which is unfortunately very circumstantial. Rotom, along with a lot of things that are coming out of Lost Origin, seem like they're going to shift the meta very heavily in a different direction, and I'm very much so looking forward to seeing how all these lists I've given you since the rumors of Lost Origin coming out evolve and how they get teched a little bit differently, and just see how they kind of shake out in the meta. We just recently got the rest of the cards from Incandescent Arcana, and we're seeing so much flying around about Silver Tempest, our November set, and I'm really excited to dive into those deck lists next week. If you enjoyed my content, make sure you like the video, comment which deck you want me to talk about next below, and then subscribe to my channel and turn your notifications on so you get an alert every time I post an early deck preview or any other videos to my channel. And then make sure you're listening to the Pokedads podcast every Friday on anywhere you listen to your podcasts at. I'm heading out. I'll see you guys next week. Deuces.